in slow-mo or go in fast mode. So anyway, it's always an adventure. So. Hello everybody, this is John here, and I've got a special guest today. This is Jamie. She's my neighbor and friend here.
Hello.
And she was wanting to come. She called and said she'd like to see what it's like to get into the bees. So I thought here before we close them up for the winter, it's October the 10th, I think. I'm getting ready to close them up for the year. I wanted to get into this hive here and see how it was doing. It was the one that the queen did not make it back from her mating flight. So I ended up having to put a new queen in with her. Let me get my gloves on here, forgot them. So we're going to open this up and see what we got in here. I had to put a sugar feeder in here. If you don't mind, would you set that over there on the other beehive? The bees ate about 1.5 gallons of sugar water. So like I say, we'll open this up here and see what's happening inside. This is a follower board, and whenever you're not using your whole hive, you just kind of move this as you go, and that keeps them in one section. So, we don't really have anything here on the first couple of bars.
I don't know what I imagined it would look like. Oh my gosh.
They're just kind of tooling around. Right now, if there would be any kind of hive beetles or so, they'd be guarding them and trying to keep them away from the honeycomb. Here's our first bar, and now that's a little hive beetle, that black thing.
Yes.
Bad for bees.
Okay.
They get in there and they lay eggs, and then the worms get in there and they eat up the honey. So that's one of the problems you have with
now, will they normally kill them, or?
well, they can't kill them because they're hard. They're a very hard beetle, but they can keep them corralled in a spot. So what they do is they try to keep them all in one spot and keep them out of the honeycomb. But if the bees start lowering in number, then they can't keep the whole hive controlled. So now what we got here, this is the clear stuff is nectar. That's what they're bringing in, and they turn that then into honey.
That's
and
beautiful.
It starts like this, and they keep evaporating it till it gets down to
So there's another one in the
hive
beetles.
beetles.
Yeah. So is that a major concern, or just when there becomes more and more?
When there becomes more and more, you'll always have a few in your hive. They can fly, and then so they can fly and then get in the hole here at the entrance. But when there's more that the bees can't keep corralled or take care of, that's when you're going to have trouble.
Okay, so why is this all black?
Okay, that is, as the bees work in this, let me set this up here. When the bees are going across it and working on it, it turns from the white comb like you saw at first. And it's this older comb. This is 3 years old. And every time they have baby bees in them, there might have been, in each one of these holes, there might have been 15 baby bees in the last 3 years being born out of that hole. You know, I don't know how many for sure, but each time they do that, it darkens, and that's why you see.
So they create all this.
They make this. This is all natural comb here. And yes, this is a top bar hive. A lot of people would just use, if you've seen those square hives, and they stack them up.
Yeah.
That's I think Langstroth hive was what that's called. And I like this way because it's simpler, and you keep all your equipment here, and the bees make their own comb. So.
Now, as this seed up here where it's harder looking,
Okay.
I could eat this whole week, or the hose is filled in, I guess I should say.
Let me look here real quick.
Yes.
Now this is the difference between unfinished honey and that's capped honey. So that once this is capped like that, it can last for many, many years. It doesn't go bad. So that's finished honey, and that's what they'll eat all winter long. And then, like I say, they're dehydrating that down, getting the moisture off of it.
So when it's got all that hard stuff, that's what they like. That's
That's
what
what
they're
they're
going to
shooting
live off
for, yeah.
of. When they say busy as a bee, you ain't kidding.
I'll let you pick that one up. Just grab it by the ends
Okay.
and hang on to it.
Okay.
And then you can hold it over and look at it. And again, this is half capped full of honey on both sides.
Oh my gosh.
So what they have to do here right now is get enough honey to make it through the winter. And a lot of times bees, they can starve out in February and maybe at the beginning of March, because that's when they start building their brood up again, and young baby bees. So that's a critical time. We've got to have enough honey to make it through the winter and through March, and then usually you start getting some things that they can get some nectar.
So this one is, he's right there. He's got his head stuck in the hole at the top, so he's eating.
He's either eating or putting some nectar in there like that. He's probably putting nectar in there.
Wow.
And then they put it in their mouth and in their stomachs, or however that works, and they reduce it down and they keep doing that till it turns into honey. And they take the moisture out by fanning and blowing air through it. It's always important to keep your bars in the same row and in the same angle. That's why all these are cut at an angle here, so I don't turn them around. Now we're getting down to where
That
there's
one I can hear like.
baby bees, yeah.
So, okay, what's more aggressive, baby bees or?
No, the baby bees are not. It's your older bees that are more aggressive. The older they get, the more aggressive they are, really. The baby bees just stay here, and once they're born, they stay in the hive for a week or two, and their job is to take care of the other baby bees. So that one's still full of honey, and this is how you're supposed to actually flip these up and around when you're looking at them. This type of hive, this can break off easily. If it's heavy and you've got it at a funny angle, it can break off, so it's important to...
So when the queen didn't come back, the new queen came in, she'll just...
Well, the queen didn't come back, and if I wouldn't have caught it when I did, this hive would have died out. No queen, no bees, the hive just dies out. So I was fortunate. This is the first time I never had a queen come back, and there's so many things that can kill a queen when she's out mating. So it could have been a bird, it could have been a dragonfly. There's just a lot of things that can happen. All right.
Okay, what is this here?
That is pollen. That's what they bring in from all the... Right now they're bringing in probably goldenrod, so that's pollen. And they're trying to bring as much of that in as they can now, because that's what they feed the baby bees.
I should have brought my phone to record this. This is crazy.
Right here's a bee getting ready to be born. See the little bees they're eating through there?
So they dig them out, or the bee inside eats it?
I think the bee, that's a good question. I'm not for sure, but I would assume the inside bee would be the one digging itself out, chewing itself out.
Now the bees that are born here, will they always come back to this hive?
They only live 6 weeks. So their life is not very long.
So this bee here, any of these bees only live 6 weeks?
Yes, except for in the wintertime now. There's a new different style of bee that is being born right now. They're smaller, they're they're chunkier, fatter. They're made to make it through the winter, and they can last, I think, 5 months. So the bees that you probably see a lot of these here are going to be the ones that make it till next spring. But all these bees that are flying out right now and coming in, their lifespan is only about 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Let me see if I can find you some eggs and
As you go further down, I notice there's more and more bees.
that's because they're brood. See that there? That is pollen. That's called bee bread. And the bees turn the pollen into bee bread, and that's what they feed the little bees as they're growing. These are all yet to be born.
So all this is just bees being born.
Yes. Now usually you can find the queen. She's usually on the ones that have baby bees in.
Looks like a noise they're making.
And this is a small hive. If we opened up another one, it would be loud. I mean,
Really?
It's not, yeah. You can hear them getting a little louder there. See all that pollen in that one?
Oh yeah.
Yep. So right here, this is their honey and pollen stores here for the winter they're trying to make up. And then we had about, what, 4 or 5 bars of brood that had brood on them.
So this is honey.
Yep,
This is the bread.
yep, and then the other stuff is the nectar. I'm probably covering your face up in the video here a lot, but there again, that is, see all the pollen they carry in on their
Yes.
legs.
I didn't. So that's on their legs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really a lot. More
Mhm.
than I thought they could carry in.
And you know, I don't know how many flowers that bee would have had to go to even get that amount.
So they land and it just kind of sticks to them like Velcro.
Actually, I think they take it and then they rub it with their feet and then they stick it somehow on their. They pack it on their legs.
And so this is considered a smaller hive.
This is just a small. Yeah, it's not very big at all. It's been trying to grow back after we lost the queen, and it was really, you know, not a very big. You know, there might have been 5,000 bees or so in there. This one over here probably has 40,000 bees in it.
Oh my gosh, cool.
So, anyway, I did not see the queen. I would love to find her real quick just to make sure.
So is she a lot bigger?
Yes. She's got a longer butt. She sticks out about another 1/4 inch bigger, longer than these bees here.
And they'll just accept her?
Well, they do for quite a while, but as the queen ages, there comes a time when they supersede her or they try to get rid of her, and they'll start another queen, a queen cell, and they'll try to. The queen's in control of the bees, but the bees know when she's getting old enough that they need to get a new queen. It's all about keeping the hive strong.
So how long does the queen last? How
Now,
long
I
will
think
she
the
live?
queen can last a few years. I think she can actually last 2 years or more. But again, she'll start laying lower amounts of bees as she
So
gets
she's
older.
the one that lays all the.
She lays the eggs, yeah.
So are these just all boy bees?
These are all female bees here. And there are a few that are male bees. They're drones, they call them, and I don't have any here right now because this time of the year they kill them. They kick them out, and they don't keep them in here all winter long because they do not need them to waste their honey over the winter. So all the male bees are then
Gave the boot.
yeah. Now here we go. This is what I wanted to see. If you can see right in there, you see those little bitty white-looking worm larvae?
Yeah.
That's a baby bee that's a little over a week old.
Oh my gosh.
And if you can see, and I can't see that good, but in some of those there might be a little white dot like a piece of rice, only smaller.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
That is an egg. So it stays an egg for about 3 or 4 days, and then it starts to turn into that larvae there. And then after a week or so, they cap it, and then it's like 21 days or so, I think, for these bees to be born.
Wow. Now, how do you know when it's ready to take honey? or take honey from it?
Well, whenever, I'd love to find that queen. Some people take honey in the spring or early, like June, July, after the spring flow, and then some people do it here in the fall. You just want to make sure you leave them enough honey to make it through the winter. So that's something you got to really.
So honey's not like dripping.
No, it won't drip.
It's not. See,
no.
I guess I imagined it. So.
No, I mean if you cut the caps off here, it might drip out. It's honey. It's thicker. Man, I'd love to see that queen and show you the queen, but I do not see her today. She's been there in the last 3 days, though. That's what's most important. Okay.
So why will she'll go leave to do what?
She never leaves once she gets back from her mating flight. She's here the rest of her life until they swarm. Now next year, this queen can take half of them in the spring and leave, and that's a swarm. The other half will stay. She'll lay some eggs and queen cells, and that's how they split and make a new hive. That's how they propagate and move on.
Got a lot. So she don't go out looking for pollen.
No, her job is just to lay eggs. I keep covering my arm up here in the thing probably, but well, I don't see her. Sometimes they're pretty good at hiding, and they really don't. A lot of them don't really like you to mess with them. She may be on the walls or down here at the bottom somewhere.
But when you see her, she sticks out.
Yep. You can maybe lift that one up. That's the honey. Again, that's got a fair amount of honey on it.
It's pretty. Oh my gosh, it's heavy.
Well, these bars will hold a good 4 pounds or 4.5 pounds when they're full.
It's neat because it's not at all how I imagined it.
I think I read that the bees are the only insect that make food that humans eat. Honey. And there's so many benefits from honey.
Well, they say we need them desperately. Rodney, this is so cool. Yeah, there ain't no way he'd come over here. So when you set it down, how do you make sure?
Just gently set one side down. You gotta watch so you don't smash a bee. It's very hard not to smash them when you get so many bees. But like I say, the smaller number, it's easier to put these combs back,
Just look right there and let you.
bars back together here. So we had a few hive beetles. Really don't want any, but we do had a few of them. I think there's going to be enough honey for them to make it through the winter. So basically, you close them up. I'll put insulation in here and close everything up. And I have one entrance for them in the wintertime. And you just hope that in March you can open them up and they still doing good. If not, I might have to give them some sugar water or hard sugar that they can eat just enough to get by until they can get some nectar.
So really, they'll stay in this box all winter and not.
Yep, this is their home. Like I say, the only time they'll leave next spring, if they get so big and they don't have enough room, they'll swarm. Half of them will leave and they'll go find another. And the cycle just keeps going over and over.
Wow.
Well, anyway.
So this fits in.
I'm not for sure where that one went, but these are all still good honey, and that one's just nectar, so we'll put it here by the
I mean,
end.
they're working in the middle there. They're everywhere.
Yeah, that goes in right here.
So as they go, like this one was kind of like the bottom of this one on the other side was So it's just where it ain't been finished out. Like this is.
Right. Like, see, this, they'll pretty well keep it the shape of the hive. They leave them about, that bee needs 3/8 of an inch to walk through. So these are probably about 3/8 to half off the wall. So that's why it has that I guess that's a trapezoid shape.
Yeah, it's like.
And you
then,
see
like,
it just fits perfectly in there.
in there, I just can't get over how they're.
And when they build this, sometimes they do cross comb, and that's a problem. You got to stay up ahead of them, because sometimes they'll want to build across the bars this way, and that's not good. So you got to,
So
whenever
if that starts, you break that off.
yeah, you try to keep ahead of them so they don't do that. I'll let you stick that back in.
So do I just take it all together?
Yep, together. There's. The biggest thing with bees is, and you're doing it, you just need to really move slow.
So
Try not to bump them. They don't like it when things get hit, bumped, and that makes them
That's
more agitated.
irritated.
Yep.
So like where they're all, do you just let them calm down and go back down in there?
What I'll end up doing, and I haven't used a smoker at all because these bees have been fine. They haven't been any, but you'll smoke them a little bit, and then you can just slowly push this together.
So the smoke makes them go down back in.
Yes. And that's basically how you do it. Any other questions?
No. No.
And this comb was just built in the last few months, and that brown is where they had some baby bees in it, I guess.
And so when next time,
There's that hive beetle.
the next time it comes around, now does it feel, what's it feel like?
It's really light.
Yeah.
When it's nothing in it, it is really, really light. There's another hive beetle.
So this here, there's like a space that will eventually they'll just start filling that in.
Well, they will, but I didn't tell you this. This is where I put the new queen in. The new queen came in a box, so I cut this out and I stuck the box in there. And what the bees do, if they accept her, there's sugar, a plug in it, and they eat that out, and then the queen can come out. So that she is released then into the hive.
So you had to buy a queen?
Yep, I did. And anyway, she's still alive and working, as we can see here. I would love to get them little hive beetles. See, the hive beetles are on this one because there's not as many bees and there's no honey in it, or nectar. That little fella, they can fly pretty good. There's another one.
I wonder
Anyway,
what their fuzz is around there.
I think they're fuzzier when they're babies, and as they get older, the fuzz kind of, if they lose it, and their wings get tattered too. I mean, you can tell a older bee, her wings will be.
So in 6 weeks' time, can you tell a difference in how they looked when they was first born?
You know, I've never studied two of them like that. I mean, but yes, you can. You can actually see where hive beetle. You can see where the bees, the wings are a little tattered, and you know, they live a hard life. They're 6 weeks when it's busy. Time for
I
us.
just never would have guessed they only lived that long. Wow. And they kind of put off, is it a smell?
Well, that's another thing. This time of year, they do put a smell off, and some people call it like a stinky feet smell. But to me, it's more of it's the goldenrod maybe that they're bringing in, and the processing of it, and the honey has kind of an odor. It doesn't smell stinky. It just smells kind of like a sweet, stinky smell.
Yeah, I agree.
But these over here have really been, you could smell them when you walk by the hives. And the last few days, I've really noticed it a lot. So whatever they're bringing in right now has that more of an odor. It's a more distinct odor than in the summertime. So it's just the pollen that they're bringing in.
Is that her? Or just
No,
a big, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm butting you. She should be down at this end. The queen is hardly ever in where the
where all
honey's
the-
at. She's
okay.
where the babies are at.
Okay.
I'm not going to say you won't find one, but there really should be no reason why she's at this end.
That's neat. So how is this quite a lot of maintenance? I mean,
Not with these style of hive. A top bar hive, to me, it's got advantages and disadvantages. I'm not a commercial beekeeper, so I don't have to get gallons and gallons of honey off of this. I just get enough for friends and family. But in that case, everything you have is stored here. So all these bars, all the extra bars and everything, they just stay in here. So you don't have to store things, and then whenever you process your honey, you just cut it off the bar and you squeeze the honey out and let it drain through a strainer, and that's fresh raw honey. You don't do anything else to it. And then you'll take these bars and put them back in here, and then the bees will start building on them again.
so when it comes time, you break all that off down there and.
Well, I didn't take any honey off of this one,
Okay.
right, because we're wanting them to build up. But what I would do, I would take maybe 3 or 4 bars. If this was full, I would take 5 or 6 bars. It holds almost 29 bars across here. So I would take 4 or 5 bars, let's say. So that would get me almost 20 pounds of honey
Oh my God.
off of this hive. And that's I can usually get about that much a year, almost, off of each hive. And I could probably get more if I worked at it, but again, I just want to make sure the bees have enough, so I try not to take too much. This year I didn't take hardly any off of this one because, like I say, they were in trouble there for a while. That's another thing, when the queen and the half of them leave, they take a lot of the honey and stuff with them. So,
Oh, wow.
you know, half the bees will fill up all their guts with whatever they can, and then they take off, and then they'll land somewhere, and that's the swarm. So they need enough supplies to get by till they can find a home and start building the new wax.
So they'll eat it, fill up their bellies,
Yep.
and then I guess
They
puke
take
it
off.
out.
Well, they just keep it till I don't know how their stomachs work, but they can hold it. They can just hold it till they're ready to use it. So they got to have enough food in them and stuff. So the queen, what they'll do is, if a new swarm will go somewhere and they'll start building out a little thing like this, and then the queen will lay in it just as soon as she can. She'll start laying baby bees in it, and the other ones will start trying to fill it up with nectar and pollen so that they'll have food for the bees. So they'll start like this, and then in about 2 or 3 days, you'll have about 3 of these built.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's amazing, you know, in a couple weeks, they can easily have 6 or 7 bars built, and they're just constantly putting more babies in them, and they'll spread out. And then once they get there, they're usually about 10 to 11 frames of brood here, and the rest of them they'll make into honey. So once they get their brood section figured out, they start making the honey, and that's when I know I can take honey off of this end. If I've got 10 bars of brood and 10 bars of honey, the extra stuff is what I might take off of it then.
Okay.
But anyway. Okay, everybody, we're back, and just took Jamie through the whole beehive. She was able to kind of look through it, ask a few questions. Very glad to have her come over. Anytime you can show someone about bees and maybe get them interested, I think it's a good thing for the world we live in and for a new beekeeper. So, any comments, Jamie?
It was just, if you've never done it, just do it. It's neat. I mean, just to learn all of it, and just, you know, I didn't know that they only live 6 weeks, that the queen can leave and not come back, and you have to buy a new queen. And just, I mean, it was really amazing. I enjoyed it.
I do believe, we've already talked about they're one of God's most amazing creatures He's made, how they live and work together and survive. So they work together as a community. It's a shame we don't do that more in the world today, but they're a beautiful creature God's made. Again, very thankful that Jamie came over.
And I was glad to find out that the ones that fly out and they do all the work, they're girls. Not boy bees, they're girl bees.
Yeah, I told her what the drones do, and they're just like most men. All they do is eat. But, anyway, thank you again for watching. This is my maybe 43rd or 44th video. I was glad to finish it up with Jamie here at the end of the year. So you all have a good day and God bless.